Hi guys, welcome to the channel. In the previous video, I think you understood what is the difference between physical changes and chemical changes. In this video, we shall discuss what are different types of pure substances. You know there are pure substances and mixtures, but in the pure substances itself, we have two classifications. One is elements and one more is compounds. So there is a difference between elements and compounds. So let us study what are elements and what are compounds and what actually is the difference between elements and compounds. This person called Robert Boyle was the first person to coin the term element in the year 1661, and there is one more scientist called Lavoisier. He gave the experimentally useful definition for an element. He defined an element as a basic form of matter that cannot be broken down into simpler substances by chemical reactions. So element is just a basic form of matter which you cannot divide further, or you cannot be broken down into simpler substance, that is known as element. For example, hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, right? So all of these are elements, right? So zinc, iron, calcium, potassium, sodium, magnesium, aluminum, silicon, phosphorus, all of these are elements. Okay, so these elements, they can be normally divided into metals, non-metals, and one more category is there, that is called metalloids. What are the properties of metals? Metals, I think you have learnt the properties in the previous class, but here, generally speaking, the metals have a luster, that means ability to shine. Most of them are silver, gray, or golden yellow color, and they conduct heat and electricity. They are ductile in nature. Ductility and malleability, I think you studied. So ductility is the ability of the metals to be drawn into thin wires, and malleability is the ability of the metals to be beaten down into thin sheets. And they are sonorous, meaning they are going to produce sound, right? So different examples of metals are gold, silver, copper, iron, sodium, potassium, so many things. Mercury is the only metal which is liquid at room temperature, except that rest of the metals are usually solids. Then what is the properties of non-metals? Let us see. Uh, Non-metals, they display a very variety of colors, and compared to metals, they are poor conductors of heat and electricity. They are not lustrous, they are not sonorous, they are not malleable, or they are not ductile. Okay, so different examples of non-metals include hydrogen, oxygen, iodine, carbon, bromine, chlorine, phosphorus, sulfur, right? Oxygen. So many things are there. Dif Usually gases are non-metals. Okay, so there are some elements which have properties intermediate between metals and non-metals. They are not metals also, they are not non-metals also. So they have the properties in between the properties of metals and non-metals, that we call them as a metalloids. For example, boron, silicon, germanium, these all are known as metalloids. Okay, now let us understand what are compounds. Here, the compound is a substance composed of two or more elements chemically combined with one another in a fixed proportion, or we can call it as a fixed ratio. Okay, so if I ask you about hydrogen, hydrogen is an element, and oxygen is also an element, right? But hydrogen and oxygen, they combine and they become a H2O, that is water. So H2O is a compound, whereas hydrogen is an element, oxygen is an element, but two elements combine and they form H2O, and that is called as a compound. So compound means two or more elements combining and they are forming one compound, they are forming one substance, and that substance is known as compound. And these hydrogen and oxygen, they combine in a fixed ratio. The ratio is fixed proportion or fixed ratio. Here H2O is water, we call it H2O only, we will not call it HO or H2O2 or H2O3, H2O4, 5, like that we will not call it, we will call it H2O only. That is because two molecules of the hydrogen combine with one molecule of oxygen. Okay, right? So that means if two hydrogens are there, it is going to combine with only one oxygen. So therefore the their combination is in a fixed ratio. Their combination is in a fixed ratio. Okay, they are known as compounds. For example, CO2, carbon is an element, oxygen is an element, but both are elements combining to one carbon dioxide, that is CO2. So here also you can say one they are combining the ratio of 1 is to 2, right? So two atoms of oxygen are there and one atom of carbon is there. Okay, so they are known as compounds. Okay, so I think you understood the uh, difference between elements and compounds, right? So this is our class today. Thank you guys.